I'm Afonso, the man who makes the floor shine where no one bothers to look. This morning, the owner of that floor used my name like a stain he could scrub out. Minutes later, his company froze, and every eye in the building turned to me. You want to know how the invisible man became the only person who could stop a disaster? I arrive before the building remembers it's a building. The air still carries last night's quiet, and I like hearing the place wake up, vents clearing their throats, elevators yawning in their shafts, the soft tick as the lights warm through their first layer of hesitation. I walk the same loop I always do: side entrance, security desk, lobby, restrooms, the long corridor where the AC whispers secrets. I straighten a floor mat by 2 fingers, just enough so nobody trips, and I smile at the guard, who's halfway through a thermos the size of a paint can. He calls me Afonso, Maestro de Brillo. I don't mind the joke. It's better than being nobody. I set a covered dish on the break room counter with a note. It isn't much: rice, beans, a couple of chicken thighs. But every day someone forgets breakfast. And I know what a long shift feels like when the stomach's doing arithmetic. I make coffee that's stronger than it looks. Then I go meet the day where it usually meets me, on the floor. Coffee found the tile before I did. A full splash near the reception desk, a fan of brown that has already marked the grout like it owns the place. I soak, I sweep, I pull the mop across the slick like I'm erasing someone's bad morning. My shoulder knows the right angle. My hands learned this rhythm years ago and haven't forgotten. The elevator doors open with a sigh that sounds almost theatrical. He steps out, the CEO, with 2 assistants orbiting like they forgot how to walk alone. I keep working. He spots me, and I can feel his attention sharpen like a knife on glass. He doesn't lower his voice. He doesn't need to. His words travel. "How do we talk about excellence?" he says to the lobby, and to me at the same time, "when we can't keep the floor clean?" The assistants smile, that careful smile people practice in front of mirrors. A couple of early birds at the sofas glance up, then down, then pretend they've gone temporarily deaf. I feel heat climb my neck the way it does when a stranger tells your story wrong in front of you. I breathe. I don't stop moving the mop. He points at the tile near my bucket. "See? Stains. This is what visitors stand in while we promise the future." I look where he points. There aren't stains. There are reflections. The new LED panels throw a harsher angle across the porcelain, and if you don't know that a glossy floor catches light like a lake, catches sky, you'd think it's dirt. "Those are reflections," I say, calm. "The bulbs are new and a touch too cold for the finish. I can adjust the panel angle so it doesn't bounce like that." He gives me a smile with edges. "Careful not to break anything, engineer. Coins on tile. That's what the laughter sounds like. Bright, empty, rolling away from what matters. I swallow what wants to climb out of my mouth, and I listen. To him, yes, but more to the building. There's a hum near the reception desk, a cheap vibration sneaking under the slab from the power strip hidden beneath the counter. It's the kind of tremble you hear only if you've spent years tuned to the pitch of working things. I note it in my pocket notebook. Lobby, strip 2 shaking, light refraction too sharp, check panel angle. My pen digs a little harder than usual, and the paper records my mood along with my observation. He continues his tour of excellence like the lobby is a stage, and I'm the prop he uses to set the scene. I let him. That's a choice I make. I've learned that dignity doesn't always walk through the front door. Sometimes it takes the stairs and arrives when nobody's looking. I wring the mop one last time, and the water spins off like it's shrugging. "Learn from this," he says to no one and everyone. "If we can't handle the basics, we don't deserve the complicated." I straighten and meet his eyes for a heartbeat. He expects a flinch. He gets a mirror. I step back, pull my bucket and set my tools where they belong. My hands are steady, but my chest is a radio, picking up stations I don't like. As he moves on, the building sends me another message. A tired rattle from the utility corridor that feeds the lobby. Not loud, but wrong. A breaker humming like it's nervous. Yesterday it was fine. I remember the timbre of fine. Today it's not. You spend enough years fixing things, and you learn that before something fails, it speaks in its own tongue. You just have to believe it. I drift toward the corridor like a man headed to refill a bucket. The security guard watches me pass. He knows my routes. He could walk them with his eyes closed. I tilt my head to listen better. The hum is uneven, the kind that makes metal think about singing. I hover by the door with the authorized personnel only sign and do not touch it. Rules protect people until they don't. I write again. Utility 3B hum high check ground. On my way back through the lobby, the intern waves at me, the one who makes an effort to learn the names of people who keep the place upright. I lean in and tell her softly what I'm hearing. If she sees the head of IT, ask him to listen near the stabilizer. I don't want to make a scene. Scenes don't fix screws. The CEO's voice drifts out of the glass conference room. Percentages, timelines go live like a countdown at a launch. Words float through glass like fish behind an aquarium wall, close enough to see, far enough to avoid touching. I think about how many times I've tightened a bolt and saved someone an accident they'll never know they almost had. That's the job. You stop bad endings before they're interesting. I circle once more for pride. Pride is knowing the line of the grout and keeping it straight. Pride is buffing an edge until it reflects the ceiling like a photograph. Pride is letting someone throw a spotlight on you and deciding you won't dance. He comes back through the lobby, later but not late enough for mercy, and he pauses to inspect his earlier pronouncement. I step aside, keeping my bucket between us like a small, honest shield. He nods to himself as if the floor learned something from his lecture. I want to tell him the floor learned from me, from years that don't fit into anyone's quarterly report. I keep my mouth quiet and my ears open. The building keeps talking. A whisper from the wall panels, a tremor settling into the desk frame, a crispness in the air that doesn't belong. I log it all. I have done this for apartments that hid their leaks behind new paint, for schools where a hallway draft meant a window latch ready to give, for elevators that hum different just hours before they trap someone between floors. The language is always the same, small, steady, ignored, until it isn't. He turns to his people and says, "Remember excellence," like he discovered the word this morning. I look at the reflection of my face on the tile and see the lines that work has drawn there. Those lines tell a better story than his slogan. When he's gone, the lobby exhales. The guard mutters something rude under his breath for my benefit. I answer with a half smile that says, "I'll be fine. I've been fine in worse rooms than this." I wipe down the reception counter, nudge the bucket forward, and feel the faint, offbeat quiver vibrate through the handle into my palm. There you are, I think. I hear you. I clean the last patch of coffee from the grout, rinse the mop until the water runs honest, and lock my supplies in their closet with the same care I would lock a safe. Then I stand in the middle of the lobby and look up at the new lights. Their color is wrong for the finish. It washes the warmth out of the floor. I make a note to ask maintenance to swap a few for a softer temperature. Not my department yet, so I'll bring it like a suggestion, not a complaint. On my way back to the break room, I pass a mirror and catch sight of myself. Shirt tucked, boots clean, hands rough in a way that feels like a life you can trust. I pour myself a small cup of the coffee I made earlier and sip it black. It tastes like getting on with it. That's how the day begins, with a lecture I didn't ask for, a floor that knows me better than some people do, and a building whispering that something under the skin isn't right. I tuck the notebook into my pocket, feel its weight against my leg, and think about the line between staying in my lane and standing where I'm needed. For now, I keep listening. The wrong hum has a way of finding the right ears. When it's time, mine will be ready. It begins as a hesitation, like the building is thinking twice. Screens freeze the way a person pauses mid-sentence when they notice someone important has entered the room. The receptionist jiggles the mouse, taps a key, taps harder, pretends nothing is wrong. The phones pick up a faster rhythm. You can hear urgency long before anyone says the word. I'm rinsing a mop head in the sink when the guard's radio crackles with the kind of static that doesn't ask permission. He glances at me. I raise an eyebrow. We both know the sound of a normal day, and this isn't it. I set the mop aside, wipe my hands, and follow the current of footsteps toward the lobby. The hum I heard earlier is back, but now it's joined by a thin metallic buzz that prickles the skin on my forearms. That's electricity, speaking in a higher register than it should. Inside the glass conference room, people crowd around a table of laptops like worshippers around a temperamental altar. The CEO's voice is tight and clipped. I can't hear the words, only the pitch, and the pitch says he's trying to hold the room in place with sheer force. At the reception desk, the card reader flashes red, green, red, as if it can't settle on a mood. The intern, Lucia, the one who bothers to learn names, catches my eye and mouths, "Down." I nod once toward the utility corridor, then tilt my head to listen again. The buzz is stronger. A call center agent hurries past with a headset around her neck, talking to thin air. "We're checking, sir." "Yes, I understand. Yes, I can take your number." Another agent answers the phone with that careful, calm people practice when babies are crying. The building is getting louder, but the money is going quiet. Every second that a shopping cart can't check out, a line on someone's report, gasps for air. I walk the edge of the lobby like it's a shoreline, feeling for where the waves hit. The counter hides a thicket of cabling that should be neat and bored. Today it's humming with opinions. I kneel, place 2 fingers on the power strip's casing, and feel a tremor like a mosquito stuck under glass. The vibration travels into the reception desk frame, across the surface, into the card reader, across the tile, tiny shivers that most shoes won't notice. My boots do. "I'll be right back," I tell the receptionist, who's typing password after password into a system that can't hear her. She nods without seeing me. The door to the utility corridor wears its favorite sign, "Authorized personnel only," in letters that pretend to be louder than the building. I stop at the threshold. I'm not here to break rules. I'm here to make sure the rules aren't the only thing holding the ceiling up. The guard rounds the corner and finds me lingering. "You hear it?" I ask. He listens, expression flattening. I hear something. 3B is singing, ground's not happy. He glances at the sign, then at me. The radio crackles again, a voice asking if anyone else's VPN is crying. He sighs. "I can call a T." "Call them," I say. "Tell them the stabilizer's running hot. If they need me to point, I'll point. I won't touch." He nods and lifts the radio. I head for the break room on purpose, the long way around, so nobody thinks I'm trying to be a hero with a mop. On the way, I pass Lucia. "Tell your tech lead to listen at the stabilizer in the lobby corridor," I tell her. "If he doesn't know which one, I'll show him the sticker that's half peeled off." Her face does that quick focus move I like. Got it. By the time I reach the corridor again, the air has the taste of hot dust. That's never a good flavor. Someone from IT arrives, cheeks flushed, hair already saying bad day. He introduces himself just by breathing too fast. "You're hearing this?" I ask, tilting my head. He leans in, frowns. "Yeah, that's not good. I think your primary load is flirting with a ground issue. You try to switch anything while it's flirting, it'll throw a tantrum." He gives me a look like he's not sure whether to be impressed or offended that the janitor speaks electricity. I save him the trouble and point to the panel. "See the way that casing vibrates. It didn't do that yesterday." He runs a hand near the metal, careful not to touch. We were about to push the last step of the migration. Backups are somewhere they should be, but we're not seeing them. "Don't poke the cat while it's hissing," I say. "Isolate this section first. Let it calm down before you ask it to do tricks." He opens his mouth to argue, then closes it, then hurries away with the look of a man trying to change a plan without admitting it's a change. I watch him go and hope that somewhere between the conference room and the corridor, common sense survives. A wave of silence rolls through the lobby like a cold front. It isn't actual silence. Phones ring, shoes squeak, but the noise that means money moving dies. The receipts monitor at the front desk goes blank, then limps, then stops pretending. A customer pushes on the door and sets off the sensor in a stuttering pattern that sounds like a laugh. The receptionist whispers a word I won't repeat. Lucia returns, eyes wide. They said the backup isn't talking to them. The route didn't finish. Because the electricity's already arguing, I say. What do? We breathe, I say, and we don't make it worse. In the glass room, the CEO's posture has shifted from commanding to combative. He gestures sharply. A director shrugs with his whole face. The head of IT points toward the hallway, the first smart vector I've seen. I step back so I'm not the first thing they notice when they emerge. I don't need them resenting the person with the flashlight just because they were lost in the dark. Two techs and the IT lead step into the corridor. I nod toward the panel like a tour guide. That one. The IT lead crouches, listens, swears softly. We should have checked grounding before we started the cutover, he says to no one, everyone himself. No shame in listening to the floor before you break into a run, I say. He flicks a glance at me that contains both agreement and a dozen other emotions that have to wait. Can you? He stops himself, corrects the sentence. Would you walk me through what you noticed? Vibration here, I say, touching the air an inch from the casing. Heat here, not normal, just enough to put a shimmer in the metal if you stare. The hum is uneven, wavers on the low end like a singer losing pitch. That means something down the line is loose or dirty. If you flip load in that state, you get tantrums that look like software sins and aren't. He nods, translating my metaphors into diagrams only he can see. We're going to isolate 3B, he tells his team. Then we'll attempt a controlled reintroduction of power paths. The CEO appears, jaw set. How long? He asks, like time is a machine he can order to move faster. Rushing buys us more pain, the IT lead says carefully. Give me 10 minutes to stop the bleeding so we don't open an artery. The CEO stares through him, then around him, and somehow through and around me. And then, because at some point reality breaks even the most stubborn posture, he nods once and backs away. I stay just close enough to offer a word when a hand hovers in doubt. Let it settle. Listen again. Feel that? That's better. I don't touch a thing. My job right now is to make sure the people who can touch do it with ears instead of egos. For a breath or two, the hum steadies. Then it wobbles again, like a violin bow slipping. The IT lead curses under his breath. There's still a ground drift, he says. I need to see the run. I know the crawl space, I say, because of course I do. You'll need a headlamp and pants you don't love. He smiles despite himself. I don't love these pants. We move as a small parade. One man with a badge that unlocks doors, one man with keys that open closets nobody else thinks about, and a problem that doesn't care about titles. The crawl space smells like old air and warm metal. I point to a section where a bracket is a hair off true. The tape that should lie flat has a ripple in it, a subtle crease like an eyebrow raised. He spots it, nods, files it under, after we stabilize. Back in the corridor, the receptionist raises a thumb from her desk like a periscope. One of her screens just blinked alive. The phones still ring, but fewer voices sound like cliffs. You can feel the building lean back from the edge. This is the part of a story where a hero would deliver a speech. I am not a hero, and speeches don't tighten bolts. I rest a palm against the panel without touching it and listen. The pitch is wrong, but less wrong. The line between problem getting worse and problem deciding to cooperate is thin and messy and often invisible until after you've crossed it. I step away, give the techs breathing room, and catch my reflection in the display case outside the conference room. I look like what I am, a man who knows the sound of trouble and the difference between noise and signal. The company hasn't noticed it yet, but their sales will return the second the building remembers how to sing its low note. I don't pray for miracles. I trust procedures and people who respect them. I walk back to the sink, wash the dust from my hands, and dry them on a towel I keep folded the way I like. Somewhere behind me, an optimistic chime announces that a queue of orders just went through. Somewhere ahead of me, a harder decision is waiting. Pride has to walk into a room it tried to own and ask for help it doesn't want to need. He finds me by the sink where the coffee mugs go to confess their stains. The hallway has the hush of people listening for good news. He stops a step too close, breath a little short, eyes not sure where to land. Pride hates asking for directions. "Afonso," he says, my name tasting strange in his mouth. "We need your help." There's a version of me that answers with a memory of the lobby, with heat and hurt and a mirror held up to his tone. That version doesn't get the building fixed. I set the mug down and nod once. "Let's go," I say. I lead him and the head of IT past the sign that yells about authorization and into the part of the building that hums like a heart. The air is warmer here. You can feel the pulse in your palms if you hover them near the panels. Labels are faded, screws proud of their holes by half a thread, cable ties cut at angles sharp enough to snip a fingertip if you aren't paying attention. I'm always paying attention. "Walk me through what you're seeing," the IT lead says, meeting me where I am instead of where he wishes I'd be. 3B's hum wobbles and the casing's warm in the wrong places, I say. "If you try to push traffic across a line that's arguing with itself, you'll make software look guilty for hardware's mood." He gives a short laugh that doesn't waste time. "We isolate 3B, he tells his team. "We reintroduce power on our terms." The CEO hovers in the doorway like the building might bite him. "How long is this going to take?" he asks, softer than last time. "As long as it takes to do it right," I say, not unkind. We kill the chatter around the panel. I can feel the moment the load lets go, the way a tense animal unclenches when it realizes the hand on its shoulder is steady. The hum drops a quarter tone. I angle my head and listen for the rhythm beneath the noise, the one that tells me the frame is done pretending to be a tuning fork. "Count with me," I tell the IT lead. "Not seconds, beats." He nods like he's done this with machines that cost more than houses. 1, 2, 3. On 4, we bring in the backup path. Gentle, like easing a boat into a dock. The monitors in the room next door catch a breath. The receptionist's screen blinks like an eye that wants to open. The IT lead checks his board, old school and new school at once, hands on hardware, eyes on software. He gestures for his team to hold steady. "There's still a ground drift," he mutters, mostly to the problem itself. "I saw a ripple in the run," I say. "Crawl space under the west corridor, a bracket's off true by a hair, copper tape lifting at the edge." The CEO looks at me as if I've started speaking tide charts. "In English," he says, then catches himself. "Sorry, I mean, what does that do?" "It makes electricity forget where home is," I say. "We want it to remember." We grab headlamps and a coil of patience. The crawl space opens its throat and breathes old dust on us. He hesitates at the hatch. I slide in first. The IT lead follows, shoulders already resigned to scuffs. The CEO stays at the mouth of the tunnel, suit refusing to negotiate. But he kneels. That's something. Down here, the building tells truths it doesn't bother to hide upstairs. I show the IT lead the bracket that sits wrong by the thickness of a coin. He feels the copper tape with 2 fingers and nods the way a carpenter nods when wood answers back. "Temporary fix," he says. "Temporary that buys permanent the time to arrive," I answer. We back out, brush the grit off our sleeves, and move like we already agree. I fetch the roll of copper tape from the supply cabinet, the one people forget exists until they need it. I also bring a small wedge and a torque driver that has saved more days than any speech. "Talk me through your steps," the IT lead says. Not because he doesn't know them, but because making it explicit keeps panic from sneaking in. "I'll brace the cable so it stops passing its nerves along," I say. "Seat the bracket true. Lay the tape flat, so ground is ground, not opinion. You're going to watch the hum settle. When it's near even, you'll bring the secondary online to help the primary carry the weight without wobbling." "And me?" the CEO asks. "You're the one who gives us space to listen," I say. "And you keep others from rushing the room because they're scared of waiting." He doesn't like the assignment. He takes it anyway. I slide the wedge where the cable's vibration telegraphs to the frame, easing pressure until the metal stops thinking about singing. I seat the bracket flush, turn the driver a quarter past snug, tight enough to hold, not so tight it makes a new problem. I peel back the lifted edge of copper, lay it down with my palm, smoothing from the center out like I'm teaching a stubborn page to lie flat. The hum in the room shifts, lowers, finds a lane. Listen, I say. They do. The IT lead's shoulders drop a millimeter. The CEO's jaw loses some of its grip on itself. Bring in the secondary, the IT lead tells his team. Slowly. Udoot. The monitors outside the glass ripple through a small revival. Status lights choosing green over red, like they remember that's their favorite color. Somewhere out in the world, someone hits pay now, and the command goes somewhere useful instead of evaporating. The call center's voices soften. The building takes a long breath and, for the first time today, lets it all the way out. Still hearing a little drift, the IT lead says, cocking his head. Minor. Enough to log, I say. Not enough to panic. He nods, types notes he'll close out later, and looks at me with the frank grin of a person who likes watching competence happen. The CEO looks at me like he's trying to see the version of me he didn't notice before lunch. Thank you, he says. The words come out like he's testing them for sharp edges. He tries again. Better. Afonso, thank you. You're welcome, I say. It's a good building. It just wanted someone to listen. He swallows the thing pride tries to offer when it wants to buy its way out of humility. What makes it past is simpler. I was wrong. In the lobby. I don't make him suffer. You allowed, I say. It happens. He nods, a small bow in a room that doesn't often see bows. He turns to the IT lead. What do we change so we don't end up here again? Process, the IT lead says. We don't throw switches while the hardware is humming off key. We test grounds like they matter. We bring the janitor in when the building speaks. Bring Afonso in, the CEO says, saying my name again as if practice might make it fit. He looks back at me. I'd like you to help design the checks. Officially. I'll show you what I know, I say. You show me what I don't. Deal, he says. We stand together in the hum that has learned how to be background again. The lobby lights still throw the wrong color across the tile, but that's a fix for later. For now, the building is singing its low note, the one that says the roof is steady and the wires remember where home is. I pick up my notebook and write 3 simple lines. We gather in the same lobby where my name was once used like a broom. The light still hits the tiles too cold, but the room feels warmer. People come out from behind screens and glass. The call center quiets to a low tide. The CEO stands where the echo carries, not on the stair, not above anyone, on the floor with the rest of us. He looks at me first, which is already different. Afonso, he says, and my name doesn't scrape this time. He lifts the mic but speaks like a person, not a brand. He tells the truth without decorations, the outage, the near miss, the cost of rushing, the mistake of mistaking volume for leadership. Then he tells another truth. The man who keeps the building steady kept the company standing. He says my job title out loud like it's a pillar, not an afterthought. He turns to me and offers his hand. I take it. You can feel when someone is trying to pay a debt with the right currency. I was wrong, he says, not just to me, but to the room that watched him be wrong. I'm sorry. I could make him sweat. I don't. We fixed the problem, I say. Let's fix the habit. Applause rolls through the lobby, not the enthusiastic kind from parties, but the relieved kind from landings. When it quiets, he asks me, publicly, to build a maintenance and safety discipline that doesn't treat the building like an afterthought. Design it with our IT lead, he says. Teach us to listen before we switch. They print a new badge for me before the end of the day. The plastic is warm from the press when they hand it over. Coordinator, Facilities and Infrastructure. It's a long name for work I've always done, but names help doors open. Lucia sticks around to fit the lanyard and shows me the calendar slots she already carved out for training. You'll have the new hires for an hour, she says. Then the directors. Fair warning, some of them think screws tighten themselves. I build the sessions like I build a clean floor. Edges first, then broad strokes, then polish. We start under the skin, crawl spaces, panels, the places where dust tells the truth. I teach ears how to hear the difference between a healthy hum and a hum with secrets. I show hands how to feel vibration without touching danger. I teach managers a sentence they hate and need. I don't know. Let's find out before we decide. We put up signs that aren't posters so much as promises. Dignity is part of the structure. Don't flip what you didn't inspect. If it hums wrong, stop. The guard laughs when he sees them and says we finally wrote our real policies down. People start coming to me earlier, before the rattle becomes a shake, before the damp becomes a leak, before the impatience becomes a headline. A supervisor pulls me aside to ask about a door that sighs more than it used to. An analyst stops me to describe the tone her monitor makes at 4 p.m. I listen, I log, I show up with a screwdriver or a diagram or a call to the right vendor before the emergency learns our names. The numbers in the monthly email begin to reflect what Respect already knew. Fewer incidents, shorter downtimes, less money leaking out of the cracks we pretended weren't there. No one throws me a parade. I don't want one. What I want is the sound a building makes when it trusts its people and is trusted back. The CEO changes in small ways that matter more than speeches. He walks through the crawl space once, ruins a pair of expensive pants, and earns a story that makes him human. He asks questions in meetings that leave room for answers that might slow him down. He retires the phrase basic work from his vocabulary. He learns that excellence isn't loud, it's repeatable. People who laughed in the lobby find me in quiet moments. Some bring words, some bring coffee, some just carry boxes when they see me carrying one. I accept all of it, not as payment. Respect isn't a tip, but as proof that the culture is shifting from performance to practice. At the end of a long week, I stand in the lobby by myself and really look at the floor. The lights still run too cold. I climb the ladder and nudge the panels a few degrees, swap two for a warmer temperature. The stains vanish without a mop. I smile at the joke the building has been trying to tell us. I tuck my notebook back into my pocket. It's heavier now with checklists and diagrams, with a policy draft that reads more like a promise than a rule book. I walk past the break room and set down a fresh dish with a new note. Eat. There's work worth doing. On my way out, the guard salutes me with his thermos. Maestro, he says. Caretaker, I answer, and I like the way the word fits my mouth. Here's what I know now in a way I didn't yesterday. Apology is maintenance for the soul of a place. You don't just say it, you tighten it into how you operate. Arrogance makes a lot of noise while things fall apart. Respect is the quiet that keeps the roof where it belongs. I push the door open, step into the evening, and listen once more. The building behind me is singing its low note. The company learned the melody, and if it ever forgets, I'll be here with a notebook, a talk driver, and a voice that doesn't need to shout to be heard.